4, 3, 2, 1,
Sync.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brainstorm episode I still don't know. Man, I feel like
I think this is 8.
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome!
I think it's 8.
Hello and welcome.
That's how he sounds like. That's exactly.
Hello, it's 8. This gonna be great.
This is the show where we do our thing by trying to make our own Bionicle because we don't like Bionicle.
Dang.
I mean,
Maybe if you go and
partially
obviously if you watch all of our last episodes, the one thing you can get is that we hate G1 and that we want to actively avoid it as much as possible. G1 sucks. Also, every character is named Takua from now on.
yes.
Thank you for joining the show, everybody. I'm Var.
I'm Meso.
I'm Takua.
I'm Ven.
And I just want to reiterate once again, this is Brainstorm, and BIONICLE G3 is officially canon
All the
and being
villagers.
licensed by LEGO.
All the villagers are named Takuas. And
Takuanicle.
our main character is named Matorin.
These sets will appear on shelves next year, so be hyped about that. BIONICLE G3 is a thing, official, completely coming
Also,
back.
the plural for Toa is Toas.
Tell us with a Z.
Actually, it's just toes.
With a Z.
Actually,
Don't
it's
forget
Toa
the Z,
Bricks.
it's important.
Dude, you're really triggering people right now.
The important Toa will now be referred to as the Big Toe.
You know what? I actually know. I actually know exactly what it feels like to truly be triggered about something really stupid now. There was a YouTuber by the name of, I think it's like Super Butter Buns or something like that, right?
Okay.
And she had made a video about the Bionicle video games, right? But the entire time she's pronouncing it Bionicles.
Yep.
And like, she'll even say Bionicles Heroes. What a mouthful! How would you possibly? Why would you say it like that? It doesn't even sound
Extra
good.
S is just too extra.
Gotta be intentionally trolling.
That's what I was.
Too much about Bionicle to not know that, and to do it. Honestly, I could have believed it up till Bionicle's Heroes.
Bionicles Heroes. That's the part where I'm like,
right.
oh, okay, I can't take it anymore. That's way too far.
I mean, listen, I don't know if she knew too much about it. She might have just, like, had someone research it for her, and then, like, she does it. Like, someone else does a script for her.
I don't know
and
enough
she
about
Still
her
a
to
little
know.
too much for Bionicle.
I actually, when I was a lot younger, I didn't get people who were, like, really triggered by Legos instead of Lego. Like, I didn't say it, but, like, I wasn't, like, really mad if someone else did it. But there was a thing, you're right, Var, when I was hearing that, I'm like, no, what?
Just no.
Why would you
It did.
Why?
And it minorly bothered me. It wasn't a big deal up until she started talking about Bionicle Heroes, and she said Bionicles Heroes. That got me. I'm like, now you're just making it harder on yourself.
The step too far. But
Nothing. I just got a notification on my Switch is all.
oh boy.
Anyway.
So anyway, getting to the point though, this is the show where we develop our own Bionicle G3, which has been an ongoing project that we've had for a year now. I think it's been about a year, right? We started this in like December 2016?
It's kind of true.
Yeah, it's been about a year now, so that's pretty cool. A year of development, and we have nothing to show for it. Awesome, guys. Good job.
Woo!
We're getting there.
Woo!
Come on,
Successful!
man.
Yeah!
We got a lot of
we've
stuff.
actually done a lot of stuff. So
It's a great
I think we made a lot of
comment on the
progress.
last Bionicle G3 episode from this person who
What did
has
he say?
quite a lengthy name. Thuramaster Null, I believe. Are you actually going to develop the animation? If they aren't, this is really pointless. And I'm like, well... I mean,
You know what, man?
we're gonna try.
Maybe some things just aren't for you.
We're gonna,
you know,
we're gonna try to do something. But
Like,
this is a creative process.
I don't know, man. It's like, let's assume, because we aren't actually playing, like, this whole thing has always been a brain experiment. It's just been a fun little project we've been doing for
But
fun.
in Brainstorm.
It was never meant to go anywhere. But if, like, let's say we were to actually pitch this to anyone, right? You kind of have to have a series treatment if you want to pitch a TV show to any studio.
Yes.
And to do that, you kind of have to have a script kind of formatted, and you kind of have to know where your season's going to go before you even, try to talk to someone about getting anything done. So even if animation isn't actually going to be a thing, there is still definitely a point to writing scripts and formulating a pitch. So I don't know. That's just how I feel about that.
So-
With that said, last week we talked about the first episode of our hypothetical TV show for our hypothetical Bionicle reboot. And that went pretty well. We did our first draft. We talked about some of the things we wanted to correct, some of the things we liked about it and everything. The one thing that was brought up at the end of that episode that we weren't able to touch upon really because it was the end was the art style of the TV show. And this is something that we've talked about minorly on and off again throughout our G3 progress, but we never really delved deep into it. So I think last week we mentioned we had some things in the pipeline. I know there have been some fan pitches in terms of what people have been expecting to see out of a Bionicle TV show, what people want to see out of a Bionicle TV show. I know we have mentioned we wanted it to be animated. That's kind of flip-flopped ever so often. Mm-hmm. So
there's really two major styles, two overarching styles it could go. It could go a more stylized animated form, or it could go the more traditional route of other LEGO TV shows. And for stylization, you have to say, well, how much is too much, and what kind of style are you trying to emulate? And that's kind of the gist of what we're going to be talking about today. Var over here we've got some ideas. Put it mildly. So.
Yeah, I don't even know how to because I think John, I don't know if you have anything you want to say in particular, but I don't know if we want to talk about what we have envisioned for the show up until this point, and then what things have happened that have changed it. Or
okay, so go on.
Because for the longest time, I think we've been we kind of all prior had agreed that something more animated, more like Avatar, more elves is probably the best way to go, versus classic kind of 3D Lego like the Ninjago TV show.
Right. But okay, so I think the thing that we came across is that the style that the Ninjago TV show, or kind of like that kind of rubbery style of the minifigure animation, where the limbs all move and the kind of almost like the video games, or obviously seeing the TV shows. Yeah. We did not want that, and I feel like that's why we were kind of leaning towards never animated. Here's the issue. Beforehand, we thought it would just be too much to do any kind of other style than the style we're kind of going for. And we're just going to play around with 2D animation because we felt that was always there. We underestimated the talent of the people that work for us. We have some very, very talented people. Specifically, just one person. I mean, we have many talented people. But
the legend, Zeros.
Just say it was Zeros. Why are you skirting around this?
I'm not trying to skirt around. I'm trying to build up hype for this
building
guy.
It up. Yeah, he's hyping it up.
Legitimately came
that was
through.
Terrible build up, dude.
All this
because you ruined it halfway through.
That was like
the
How I Met Your Mother's series finale, dude. It's terrible. You didn't build up to anything. You just threw it in there out of left field. Disappointed a lot of people, including me.
I feel like there's only one big disappointment here, and that is the fact that. The fact that we don't know exactly what we're going to be choosing. Zeros did some really great 3D and 3D renders of the minifigures that we made in the Lego Movie style, and the Lego Movie style is very distinct from the Lego TV style. It emulates a more detailed stop motion thing. It has textures to make it look more like detailed plastic. I'm going to link to those. Yeah. I'm going to link to specifically. I think I'm going to link to his Instagram so he gets promotion here.
These are really cool for sure. I think definitely the idea of the Lego Movie style being translated into a TV show is an interesting one, because I still don't really know what that process would be like. Because it's one thing to render out the minifigures alone, but it's a whole other thing to try and recreate the whole everything is made of Lego style that the movies typically have. And if you even if you just go through some of the behind the scenes of making the Ninjago movie, for instance, and you see all the work that went into building up Ninjago City, I don't know how well that would translate to a TV show. Or if it even could.
So here's what they have that I didn't realize. And this does actually make things a little easier at some levels. Basically, what the software that goes behind the Ninjago movie, what they did is that they actually modeled a lot of that city and stuff traditionally, and then they have this program that they use that will go through and like kind of shape, generate Lego pieces to fit within that shape. So kind of like how Lego Worlds, you know how it has the procedural generation and you have like a hill that will go up and you see all the slanted bricks and all that stuff. They have a program that will do that. So what goes on in the Lego shows initially is that they will render out, they'll like model the mountain. You know, if they go to a snow place, they render the snow, they're in the mountain, they do all that. What they would do is that they would take an extra step and they would just render that out as a Lego model and then put the characters there. It's not going to be as simple technically, but I don't think it's going to be as difficult or that much more difficult than they already
Why doesn't every should?
Are you going to post the full pictures, or are we going to work only from these snippets?
We'll do when we do the full picture. Actually, let me do something that I just rendered out a little bit based on his own model. I'll credit to him.
A render.
Aw, snap.
Get hype.
Which I just realized I can't embed here because it's way bigger than 8 megabytes. So let me resize that real quick.
Anti-get hype.
That's a wrap.
The hype has
You
been
gotta
revoked.
push it, yo. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us at Brainstorm. We'll see you next week.
It's all over.
So essentially, what is happening here is this is a conversation about whether or not we should go with a 3D style or a 2D animation style, traditional 2D animation. Because if we were to go with 3D, it would likely be in the style of the Lego movies, in a sense. I'm not quite sure where the level of quality and like whatnot goes into that from a budgetary standpoint, but it's let's imagine that it's feasible that we could do a 3D animated show in the style of the Lego movies. Would that be better than a 2D animated show? And we can talk into specifics of the 2D animation too, because there have been several different pitches as far as like what the 2D animation should look like, and stuff.
Okay.
So,
There we go.
There
John's
we go.
posted what the Golly minifigure looks like. Very nice.
It was my personal favorite. It just
Lee
looks
was
so
really
good.
So good.
Oh, whoops.
Lewa again.
Lewa again.
Lewa again.
2.0.
It's okay. They can't see the chat. We don't record that in this video.
Rest in peace.
Powatu.
Powadu.
Powatu.
Powadadoo, everybody.
So yeah, these are examples of the 3D models for this sort of Lego movie style, which looks really cool. I guess what it comes down to is how we feel, because it essentially the style that we go with for our show is going to kind of affect the tone that the show also
That the show has, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because if we're going to go with minifigures, then that's fine. However, I do like obviously we were planning on going a bit more comedy anyway, more lighthearted. But it does. I do think it'd be a little more difficult to convey more serious stories with minifigures as your medium.
It's funny because
that's not to say that like minifigure based shows aren't serious. Ninjago can handle serious topics sometimes, but there's levels, I would say, and different kind of I don't know, immediate sort of I don't even know what the word is. Just like impressions that you get from watching a show with Lego minifigures than you would with 2D animation per se. And that also carries over to certain different styles as well. With even if we go 2D animation route, the different pitches that we've gotten, which we'll talk about those specifically. It'll depend on the direction that the show goes as well, because those styles will also affect the tone of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, we talked about this before off air, but we were comparing the new Ben 10 reboot
Right.
recently to some of the older Ben 10 cartoons. And the newest one, if you aren't familiar with it, they've recently rebooted Ben 10, and let's just say it looks... it's got a very interesting style.
It's got a much younger
don't
style.
like
Did you
it.
post a photo of
They made Ben 10 look like a baby.
They made him look like he's 6 years old. He's supposed to be
Baby
10 years old.
Been sick.
Ben 6, only 6 aliens now. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's catering younger. And I think even if you were to watch this Ben 10 show, right, and you go back and you go in expecting it to be able to handle some of the stories that it did in the original one, you've already got an impression left by that art style about what the entry period is for like ages, the age recommendation. Right. So
I know this definitely
styles are
happened
important.
with Spectacular Spider-Man. A lot of people underestimated the show's quality because of the animation style.
Yeah, and I like that style. I like the style that they went with, but I also get what people were saying about it beforehand. That style was very distinct. It was based on a certain artist. I feel like shows like that have a unique style that's based on a certain artist and end up doing better in that regard.
And just the overall aesthetic of the show, it just goes to show like how much it really matters,
right?
As far as like gaining people's interest, because I know for sure I've avoided turning on a couple of shows because of the way they look. Like for the longest time, I didn't watch Adventure Time because I thought the animation style looked stupid.
Same. I'm not into modern Cartoon Network stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that's not, there's a cleaner style that I like, and like stuff like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe have a bit more of a cleaner, defined thing that I like with different like line weights and everything. Yeah. I don't like the Adventure Time style as much, and I don't like some what's the other show that was like kind of like Adventure Time in art style, not
regular
like
show.
Tone. Yeah, regular show. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that one either.
Yeah, those styles definitely help towards like the show they're trying to convey. A lot of those are like kind of goofy, sort of like, especially regular shows, really goofy, kind of not sitcom-y, but like just I don't even know how to describe it, but just
right.
Kind of like it's not like a story-based narrative where epic action is happening, right? You don't expect that when you go into that show. It's not what you get, which is good because the art style conveys what you have to expect.
Right.
The unfortunate thing about modern cartoons, though, is that it seems like the kind of angular, more action-oriented style of animation, as well as the art styles themselves, are kind of dying out for the more softer edges and rounder shapes.
Yeah, the styles are becoming a little bit less unique nowadays. It seems like they're all just kind of blending in a way. There's a really good comparison picture I saw recently. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
I think so. Find it.
Okay, I'll go look for it. Anyway, keep talking.
Yeah. So it's certainly a trend. So with that said, I guess we can go ahead and talk about some of the art styles that have been pitched to us as far as 2D animation is concerned. Okay. Because we did get one from Ragdoll that we talked about previously. Yes. It was his Liwa iteration, which was really cool. I think that one was in a step towards the direction that I was looking for, and personally, when it comes to 2D animation. If we're going to do a 2D animated show, it was very Transformers animated-ish, which was cool.
The proportions were much more skewed, and there's like a I don't know, I like the edginess to it, kind of.
Yeah.
The sharpness to it, not edginess. Probably something else.
He did another one. This was taking that concept a bit further. This one he did a Kopaka one, and this was based off of our conversation about art style before, and how we were kind of talking about how like elves, like the Lego Elves show on Netflix right now, is kind of something that we would kind of gravitate towards in terms of a Bionicle show.
Yeah.
I think he took that a bit too literally. For me, when I was saying I wanted something more like Lego Elves, I think that it was more like I like the concept of 2D animated shows, and I think Lego Elves accomplished that pretty well. With that said, Lego Elves has a very Eastern style. It's got a very kind of anime look to it. For me personally, I think Western is the way to go.
I agree.
In terms of art style.
I also would watch a Bionicle show that looked like this.
Here's the thing that really comes down to is that we're talking about both the style and the kind of atmosphere we're wanting for our show. And so the Western style, I feel, makes our show feel less, not adult, but it feels way more kid-oriented. And that might be the visual tone that I For me it's tough because like I get why we would do that, because you know it's a Lego theme. At the end of the day, they want to sell these toys, not really just sell a good TV show. But speaking as someone like from the perspective of someone who's developing this show, this is the style that I feel fits what we're going for with it. And so that's a tougher dichotomy for me. I feel like if the reason why we're discussing this right now is because not only does it affect the tone of what we're doing, but like the way we write the show, how we
well.
our perception of the show and everything, and how they expect how good the show is going to be. There's going to be tonal shift if we go from one style over another. I do think this style is leaning towards that. But let's keep going.
Yep. Well, another perspective in terms of the style too is that you. It's important to keep in mind the constraints of 2D animation as well. And another problem with this style that I found is that it's a bit too complex in terms of the armor paneling and the shading and everything and the line work there. And it's great if you're going to do like stills and like promo images, but once you get down to the actual animation, you have to cut corners to actually get something finished. And I feel like there's a lot of detailing in these in all the individual characters that would be difficult to convey or difficult to do were this to become an actual TV show. You look at Lego Elves and the character designs there, and it's easier to draw like faces, for instance, because they all technically have the same face, right? Like it's like a template almost. You just you can draw that from muscle memory. You can just do that really easily and transplant that easily instead of rigs and everything, which I've been experimenting with rigs, so I kind of know a bit about like the complexity of what that's like. But when it comes to actually drawing these things out, the trend, if you notice for most cartoons, is to try and keep things as simple as possible. With as much shapes, with like large amounts of color in it, without any detailing, without a lot of colors going into it as much as possible. It's kind of the same mentality you would go for making a minifigure. You want to get a lot of detail in there, a lot of color, but you have constraints. You can't go past this number of colors, which I think we ended up doing with our minifigure designs anyway.
Right.
So it's kind of a similar level there. I like if Lego were to license out an anime, then it would be a little different. I feel like the kind of the Japanese workforce when it comes to animation is way more of a powerhouse. In that regard,
most studios end up doing, even if you contract a studio based in the US, they will end up.
They usually go to Korea for.
Korea is a
animation.
big place where they will put this to work. So,
yeah. So I don't know. And there's obviously animation constraints there too. And I feel like I don't know. For me personally, I just feel like this one is going a bit in the wrong direction. It's going a bit too complex, a bit too more. Too realistic in proportion, but that's my thought about it. Like in terms of tone, when we were talking about the first script and the first episode draft, we were talking about how like there's no jokes or anything in it, and like it needs to be a bit more lighthearted. And I think that's going to be a thing we're going to run into, in terms of what this show needs to be, because we really got to pinpoint the demographic we're aiming it towards. Because the show and the toys should have a similar demographic, obviously, but they don't necessarily have to be the exact same numbers.
Right. I mean, like, I think, like, we are all kind of on the same page where it is, I would say, the same demographic as the same people that watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, that same group. So that, like, that target audience, when you think of when they sat down and said, this is the audience we're going after, that's around the same ages we should go after. Which I would say is kind of the young, like, preteen to young teenager kind of range. And then obviously Avatar skewed above because the quality was so good that other parents and older teenagers and college students still watch it and enjoy it. But that was if you look at that primary demographic, those are your main characters that were like 12 or 13. And they live in this world, and that was the area it was marketed towards. And that is a place where Lego is kind of struggling in a sense, where you have a lot of kids who, as soon as they get into teenagers, TFLs are the smallest market because that's where most kids fall off with Lego. And then usually they come back up with, when they go into college students or they become parents or something. But there's a good gap where they're lost. And so the idea for this is that it would be targeting specifically that audience that seems to wane off Lego and see if they can like hook them in with an additional stories, lore, characters, the kind of things that hooked us into Bionicle when we were that age.
Mm-hmm. I'm having trouble finding what the original rating for the show was. So I'm not sure.
It was TVMA.
TVMA? Was it really?
No, I'm kidding. It was not.
I was to say.
Wow.
That's pretty unbelievable. Okay. From this aggregate site, it looks like parents are recommending that it's for ages 7 up, which
I think it was I think it actually was like Y8 or something like that. So like officially
actually
rated,
to me it seems younger than I would have expected.
Same.
So that's interesting. I would say that we should be shooting the show towards 9 to 12.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, again, with Avatar, the whole thing is when you can scale up much farther than you can scale downward. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
We want Bionicle to be the cool show that kids like to watch.
I mean, basically, if you gear a show that's meant for 9 to 12, but you also make sure that like people younger can get it, the issue is if you decide to skew down, you're gonna limit however far up you go. As opposed to if you skew far up, a lot of the times the younger kids end up seeing it anyways.
Yeah, so
and it's regarded as a higher quality show.
Yeah, I think Avatar is a good comparison. I think another comparison would be Teen Titans. I think another comparison would be Transformers animated, as we've already discussed. I think another one
probably
would be
original Ben 10 too.
Samurai Jack, original Ben 10. We want to be that cool show that the kids are like, this show is awesome, and it still has comedy and it still has lightheartedness, but it also has action and a plot and lore.
Yeah. So I was trying to find a picture of the Avatar characters, and I couldn't really find a decent one that actually showed them off.
Oh boy,
this is the closest.
Is
one
that Papyrus? Boy,
I don't know, dude. Actually, no. I that is the official font that they use for Avatar.
Nice.
It's funny they used that for Avatar and also the Avatar movie as well.
7 out of 10 needs more common
the actual
sense.
movie.
Wow, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
Did,
wow.
That's crazy.
Also, I am back from my search for the comparisons. I cannot find it. It's
Well
like
done,
one of
man.
those things where you can find it when you're not looking for it, 'Cause,
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
That's
Whatever.
alright. We got
So the reason I pointed this picture out is I just wanted to point out like the way the designs work for these characters is that they're all, the idea is to keep them simple with very like simple shapes here. Like you'll notice that the coloration for all of them, it's like 3 colors at most, with like very like maybe a small variety of tones in there. Shadows are usually kept to a minimum, and line work is usually kept to a minimum as well. So really, it's like keeping it down to the base of what you can achieve to still represent what you want it to represent without going overboard with the design.
So all the line work is same width, and there's only one tone of shading. There's only one and it's a hard shade too. It's like
it's a hard shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, there usually isn't any lighting shade. Now, obviously, it'll depend on the scene because sometimes you'll have like certain scenes like there's like a sunrise or like there's a computer monitor glowing or something, and you can have some like after like post production work on that to make that kind of stand out a little bit more. Sometimes
Or the colors will have to be changed in terms of the hue.
There's different palettes for different.
Exactly.
But,
the palette would have to be changed a little bit.
But the idea is to keep the design simple to make them easily replicated, because for a show like Avatar, for instance, this is another thing we need to talk about. For a show like Avatar, it's frame by frame. The way it's animated is frame by frame. You have artists who are drawing every single frame out, and it's not rigged like modern animation usually is. If you look at a show like let me think here. Kind of like Adventure Time, like regular show, like Gumball. Gumball is one, for instance, that definitely used rigging in more modern style animated form. It's using tweens, motion tweening, and a lot of like bone snapping and everything. So like you take your you take your character and you apply like a bone tool to like the limbs, for instance, and then you can just manipulate those. So that's how like a lot of modern cartoons are animated. With, like I said, with the show like Avatar, with a show like Voltron, those are frame by frame. And you can tell the difference when it comes to the way the animation works. Modern day rigging is very smooth to the point where it doesn't look natural. If you watch Avatar, it's not smooth. You can see the frames, especially when you see like action scenes. You can kind of see the choppiness there. But it gives it like, yeah, it's in elves as well, but it gives it a different kind of feeling. And I feel like the more serious you're going, the more the more narrative structure you're going, the more like if you want a bunch of different camera angles, you want the camera to be framed in like a very cinematic way. You want the lighting to be dark and, you know, not gritty, but like just like convey emotion. You want like you want these different angles and stuff like you would see in a film. You're going to want to do frame by frame because there are limitations with rigging where like really you can only go on a single 2D plane. Characters can only walk in one direction and walk back in one direction. They can only have that front view, that quarter view, and that side view, and that's what they're limited to. So these are just things to point out. With 3D, for instance, though, you can pretty much do whatever you want. So when it comes to limitations, 3D definitely does not have that many. So you can have your minifigures be as complex as you want them to be. You can have your environments be as complex as you want them to be. It really just comes down to time. And
the difference
and what you're willing to put into it.
With 2D versus 3D when you're doing the frame by frame versus the 3D is that it's much, much easier in 3D to reuse assets. And once you get a base for your show, it is a lot easier to do more things with the assets you already have as opposed to 2D, where like a lot of times if you're like for instance, if we were to do a different design for Pohatu in the next year, all we have to do is just update that texture. The thing that the minifigures have going for them is because the actual thing is flat, so we can reuse animations, or we can like put them in different formats, or if we just want to update something that is like a new part, we can just update that texture. All the facial animation just happens on the minifigure head as well. That's something that minifigures have going for them that a lot of other shows, if you're doing Never Show, normally you have like an eyes, the mouth, everything. You have to rig all that. You can just animate that in 2D and like make that like a movie texture essentially on top of a 3D object, because that's how minifigures work. There is, with the LEGO format, there are some things you can, I wouldn't say cut corners on, but there are things that are simpler about it. There's things that we can reuse about it. If we do a 2D animated show...
There's a reason that all of Disney movies nowadays are 3D and not 2D. It's cheaper, it's easier.
It's way cheaper for them.
Rip 2D Disney.
Yeah.
2 Disney.
2D is very much an antiquated kind of style of animating. It's not the... But it does have it. It has its merits. It has certain tones, certain feelings. People like 2D animation for certain reasons. So it all comes down to what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want to put forth your ideas?
Sure. There was another pitch here. This one was by Jedi Time Lord.
Oh yeah.
Digital in the.
Oh yeah, this guy was like posting in the chat all morning.
Well, there you go, dude. There you go. I really like this. It looks cool.
I like it.
This is the direction I would go, but I get what he's going for.
My thing with it is it's going towards a Western style, more so Western than it is going Eastern, but I feel like it's kind of got like a bit of a mix match of like what is simplistic and then what is detailed.
Mm-hmm.
So like the body shaping and everything is detailed and more realistic to realistic proportions. But I find that less interesting when it comes to animation, especially with Western cartoon styles. I feel like it's less memorable. You want your cartoons to be a little distorted. You want them to be, I don't know, caricaturized in a sense. I think I think children gravitate to that more so than they do really hyper realistic looking animation. Like you can look at like the reboot for Thundercats, which was really well done and really good, but that show didn't last a long time, and I think there's a good reason for that.
It was even a thing.
Exactly. It's a really great show, but you wouldn't remember it because I feel like that anime style, that realistic style, just didn't really translate for kids. Like Young Justice, for instance, was another great show that ended before its prime, really. Now they brought it back recently, which is awesome, but I think that's because it has more of a kind of a cult fan base, a cult following, more so than it was really successful while it was on air.
Actually, the ratings were very high for Young Justice. They just didn't air it enough, if that makes sense. The episodes aired with sometimes there would be 2-month gaps between them, especially with like Invasion and stuff, and it was just a very rushed release, and like people didn't know when any episodes were coming out. So while they were high enough for what they're doing, I think the show was almost doomed originally from the start. The Cartoon Network did not treat that show very well.
Okay.
But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I mean, your point still stands, I guess. I just don't know if I would blame it on the art style. Because I do like Young Justice's art style a lot more than
I'm not
Teen
saying
Titans.
that Young Justice's art style is the reason it was canceled. What I'm pointing out is that there is a trend in shows with realistic art styles that typically don't last very long. Once again, another one is Ben 10 Alien Force. Ben 10 was a really successful show. They switched it up to a more serious tone with a more realistic art style for Alien Force. That also did not last very long, and they pretty much immediately switched back to a more caricaturized style, which was Omniverse, and that did last a bit longer. So I don't know. I feel like there's a trend when it comes to sort of the realistic style proportions there. People are posting Generator Rex in the chat, which is another good show that I don't know lasted that long. I don't really recall ever hearing much about Generator X after it launched. Now I wasn't following cartoons when Generator X was big, so I don't really know. So, I can't really say one way or the other. But I don't know. I feel like the art style I think there's a reason why Cartoon Network felt like they really needed to completely change Ben 10 to a more kiddie style.
Teen Titans.
And yeah, there's a reason why they felt like they really needed to change Teen Titans. Yeah.
Rip Teen Titans.
And that's not necessarily saying that we need to go that route per se. We don't need to reduce our Bionicle cartoons down to like these really cartoony, like the little kid friendly. Yeah, we don't need to go that route. But I do feel like there is kind of a...
This one's just a bit too realistic, basically.
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm getting at. And I feel like it's realistic in the wrong ways. Like the mask, for instance, is really simplistic. Like, too simplistic. There's no geometry in that design at all.
Yeah, I get you. It does feel a bit more like a superhero wearing a Tahu-styled costume as opposed to like a...
Yeah.
Biomechanical...
But that's just my thoughts. Like, it's well done.
That's my thing, too. It doesn't look very biomechanical.
Yeah. So that's just my thoughts on that one.
We got biomechanical. That's a... So we had this whole discussion the other night about whether they were organic or synthetic. That's for another day.
I did make my pitch for what I would kind of think of a TV series style. So I posted that, and I did all the Toa and this sort of like style. The thing that I wanted to emphasize was dynamic shapes, hard edges, and kind of a sense of angularness, because I feel like we want the show to be fairly action-packed, or at least convey that it's action-packed. And I feel like that it's easy to do that using, harsh angles, using those like hard corners there. Not a lot of shows do that. I feel like you see shows doing the sort of softer circular edges when they are more softer styled shows. Like Steven Universe does have its action scenes, but at its heart, it's really like kind of warm, kind of I want to hug the person next to me kind of show,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I get you. Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's conveyed through its art style, using those really like circular shapings. So, this is, I think it's a bit more of a last generation kind of style, though. I did take influences from the original Ben 10. I took a lot of influences from Samurai Jack. And I don't know, per se, how successful those cartoons are to a modern audience. So I can't say for certain that this style would really work. I do, however, think, for me personally, I gravitate towards those kind of styles more, and that's what I liked as a kid. So that's the influences that I used to make my pitch. So it's a combination of original Ben 10, kind of some. I think Omniverse actually has a pretty similar style to this, which is pretty interesting because that was fairly modern. I don't know how successful Omniverse was though. And Samurai Jack was a huge influence, even though it doesn't use outlines. So
I made a little mock-up of what our title card could look like.
Thumbnail
Obviously, it won't have Generation 3 on it, but
Did that make a hype thumbnail? Can I use that for this episode or not?
I already made a thumbnail for you.
Okay,
I just
awesome.
realized it looks like all the Toa are wearing like slippers.
Okay.
Meso did mention that
still the
beforehand.
one thing that I'm not big on is the feet.
I just realized.
I think like for most of them they use I get what you said about the rounded stuff, but when I look at most of the designs, I do think the sharpness stands out to me. The shoes are too round. They're a little too bulbous. It's a little off-putting. But otherwise, I'll be honest, when I first saw the first three you made were Gali, Tahu, and Onua, I wasn't 100% feeling it. I was getting there, but I wasn't necessarily on board. And then you made Liwa, Pohatu, and Kopaka and posted the set together, and I started to see the details and the expressiveness and the personalities in them, and like Pohatu's grin and like Liwa's smirk and all that, and I can see this style being quite effective for what we're trying to do. You can portray a lot of emotion.
Peel Car in the chat has the right idea. You gotta give them the big chins from Transformers Animated.
No thanks. I like the faces here. Faces are cool.
Well, I mean, the feet were intentionally, raised that way. It's meant to give them a bit more of an exaggerated proportion. They're not supposed to necessarily be exactly representative of a human anatomy. So it was intentional that I gave them larger feet. A lot of people were pointing out that the Tahu doesn't really have thighs, right? And that was also intentional. I wanted to emphasize certain elements of their characters, essentially. So like Tahu, for instance, he's got really broad shoulders, but very narrow thighs, a very narrow waist. And that's intentional. That's important because he's a character who's very, he's broad in terms of his personality as well.
He's all about fists first.
Yeah, he's all muscle. He's all like that. That's kind of the point, is that he's supposed to convey that. And that, I think, can help sort of contribute to that dynamic sort of action-paced style IMO, assuming that that's what we're going for.
Agree. I agree completely. What do the clown shoes represent? The lack of comedy in episode 1 script? There were no jokes, so we put in clown shoes.
He was saving that, man. He was sitting on that
They're
joke.
not clown shoes. They're slippers. They're going out for a little morning walk. They're going to grab their Toa coffee.
I think they're fine.
Well, the serious answer to your question, Meso, is yes, actually. The clown shoes are meant to add a bit more levity to the designs. I felt like I feel like if I reduced the size of the feet, you guys wouldn't like it as much.
Probably not.
Because I tried it, and I didn't like it either. I can try to post some examples maybe in a bit. But
I don't care about the size of the feet. I just care about the shaping. Like it looks like the HF 2.0 feet when I would want something like a Mata foot.
Well, hey, if you look at Pohatu hard enough, it looks like he has his old G1 feet.
Yeah,
here's the issue with the if you want a Mata foot is way more detailed and harder to draw because it has like a hole essentially in it. If you look at the Mata front of the Mata foot, it has like this giant hole inside it, and so you have to draw that from all sorts of different perspectives as you're animating it. With this one, you just have to draw a shape.
I'm talking about the shaping. I don't want a shoe that dips down and then comes back up in the toe. I want a foot that like slopes upward. Is basically what I'm getting at.
Wait, actually, I don't know what you mean.
I'll have to find a comparison picture. Because I'm using real world references in the Lego pieces, but you're using drawings, so it's not a 1-to-1 comparison. I understand that you didn't model this strictly after the foot pieces in real life. But
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the slope, so like you don't want the toe to slope. You don't want the top of the foot to slope down to the toe.
I don't want there to be a gap between the toe and where the foot slopes down from the legs. If that makes any sense. Like, there's like a valley that it goes down in, and you can see it very clearly. This is a small picture, I'm sorry. I tried to find a bigger one, I couldn't easily. How there's the gap in between the socket, and then they have the 3 pinholes, and then it comes up into the actual foot. Whereas a Modafoot just kind of... Here, this one still isn't a good example, because you're right when you say it's really detailed. I don't want this. I'm just talking about the shaping. It has the accentuated
Well, that's why
toe.
I was confused, because I feel like the Modafoot has the exact same shaping.
It's slightly less pronounced.
If anything,
but
the
you
valley
are-
It doesn't have a
correct.
tip. Where the tip of the other foot would be, the Moda.
Yeah, it gets cut off.
Yeah, it cuts off at an
But like the
angle.
valley you're talking about is still there.
It's not
The only
pronounced.
reason like it doesn't look as pronounced is because there's a piston in the center.
Yeah. Replace the piston with a block if you want to draw it easy. You know, make it slightly less pronounced, whatever.
I don't think that's a solution.
You're crazy, dude. You're crazy.
Possibly, what he might be getting at, I don't know how this would work, is just if you made that shape a bit more angular and less round.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's more angular in some of them than it is in others.
That I did notice. Yes. I did see what you did there.
So, like for the softer characters, I tried to make it more round. For the not as soft characters, I made it more angular. But I mean, it's like it's something I can play around with a little bit more, maybe.
It's
Well, I mean,
literally my
it's-
only
some of them
critique.
are a rounded triangle. It could be a bit more like a trapezoid shape, maybe, where it's like at the top is flat. I mean, that's what I think of when I think of the Modafoot. That's the shape that comes to mind, is the trapezoid. So like maybe a bit more of a rounded trapezoid, as opposed to like right now it's like a triangle, right? It comes to a point at the top. So I don't know how that would
I know what you're
necessarily
talking about.
look.
I
But
don't know if that would
yeah.
look good, though.
I don't know either. That's just what I'm like.
There's a really quick edit. I didn't edit the other foot, only the one that was easier to do. I just kind of erased it.
It looks like a bird beak.
Yeah.
No
like-
moss.
Hold up. Let me see something really quick.
Another thing unrelated to feet, unless you have something else to say, John.
No, go for it.
I like the weapons. I know there was some uncertainty as to if we had like finalized weapons, but I like what you did with those.
Okay, cool. Those were their placeholder, I guess. We don't have final designs for weapons, so I just kind of drew.
Umatsu made his a long time ago, and we were all like, "Cool, awesome," and we never gave any more thought to.
I just kind of drew like a combination of what I saw from like Vin and like Umadu and other people. So these weapons are very much kind of just there
I like
They
it.
work.
to give them weapons. They weren't actually like anything that
I like
I
most
felt
of
was
them.
final.
Yeah, but they're
I like most
they're-
except
they're a couple.
Kopaka, just because
Yeah.
like I wouldn't expect him to have stuff that looks like that. But I think Liwa, we pretty much 100% decided on that. Onua was always gonna have a hammer. This one at least looks unique. Pohatu, awesome. Tahu, maybe the sword design could be refined, but generally that's what it would be. And Gali, yes, the bone hooks, the orange, 2 thumbs up. So, all in all, I like it. And also, I don't know what kind of detail that is on Pohatu's torso. He has like the waistcloth coming down, but that whole thing just looks awesome. Pohatu's probably my favorite of the bunch, just in terms of detailing. Like he
That's
just looks,
great.
he looks so expressive too, and like the face.
Yeah, I was really happy with how Puatu's mask translated into this style.
Yeah.
It worked really well. I can easily see Puatu's face translating into animated form.
Heck yeah.
I think Tahu's is probably the hardest one because there's just so much detail going on in that stupid like mouth, nose,
Yeah.
heart. But yeah. Puatu's and Kopaka's mask, I think, translated really well in that style.
Yeah, I do think that like Kopaka's mask translated very well. I feel like I'm interested to see how they look animated. I think that's the thing that like really stood that would be the thing that would sell it for me one way or the other. And part of it is because I do feel that 2D does give off a bit more of a a child or a kid friendly look than 3D
It does. For better or worse, this looks like most of the
Weirdly
shows.
enough, I actually kind of disagree. I felt like the 3D would probably give more of it.
That's what I was saying initially. Like when you were talking about it, I kind of got the impression of what you think. Personally, I don't know. I would say that compare these two styles, the one that would look the normal Lego style would not. But if we did something similar to the Lego Movie style,
I don't know.
For better or for
I feel like
worse.
there'd be a very large clash of tone if I saw like the Lego Movie style trying to tackle like burning villages and stuff. It seems like you're just waiting for a character to come out and make some kind of joke.
I would say it would be like the Ninjago style, where all the effects are like, are actual like fire or whatever, but the buildings and the actual landscapes made out of Lego.
Yeah.
Also, I did a very slight mock-up of
That's not too
the
bad.
foot there. Yeah.
That's better than the bird beak.
Yeah, that's not too
sure.
bad.
Yeah. That's... It might still be a little small, because I get what Var's doing with the bigger feet.
Yeah,
But
I get that too.
that's in a direction that is more pleasing to me. It's heading somewhere.
I can live with this. Maybe just increase
Yeah,
the size of it. Or
Yeah,
the
the
height.
size of the thing.
Yeah,
right,
make
right.
it a little bigger. Yeah, I could probably do that. That's easy enough. I did do some minor animation tests.
Yes,
just
it's
to
been
kind
quite the
of-
process.
Yeah.
Oh man, here we go. We're dropping bombs. and
Be
then
careful.
We're
Be
gonna get
careful,
a bunch
Bar.
of
Be
comments
careful.
being like,
when you-
I'm trying to get the video manager.
see all the
to load,
comments
it's not
now.
working, so.
What are you guys doing? This is a waste of time. You're not gonna make a real show. Or
Well, boom! We just made an
are
animation.
you guys making a new Bionicle show?
Yeah, what is this? Is this official?
Yeah, there's a really crappy run cycle, and then there's a really crappy rig animation, and all of them are terrible. But they were mostly just tests to try and get a handle of what that could look like. I also did a turnaround of Tahu here in this style, so you can get an idea of what he looks like from multiple angles, which I will post once
I like the
that screenshot
rudimentary
is ready.
animation. It's cool.
Ironically enough, it wasn't intentional, but those two animations are using the two animation styles that you have to work with nowadays. Is frame by frame, which is the first one, drew all those frames individually, and then the second one was a rig that I did using Toon Boom, which is a program there. So that second one is used using the puppet tools and like bones and rigs and stuff, and kind of manipulating that.
Tahu looks so bad in a good way.
And
I just can't say the full thing.
Oh, I see. Nice.
oh, got you.
Yeah.
So the both of them are very much rough, very rough around the edges. I just kind of wanted to play around with it and test it out. The second one's missing some envelope mask and everything, so like things are clipping into each other and it's not all there yet. But it's it conveys the idea, I guess. So yeah.
What's this? Tahu's face does look like that of an antagonist from Aladdin. Does he?
Yeah, I mean he's angry.
He is angry.
He is angry.
So, yeah, he's angry there. He wouldn't look like that all the time.
Very true.
Yeah, that's just how he is. He's brooding. It's like Batman.
No, I think-
Batman's
I
got
think
the face of a villain.
I think he was just making a joke on Venta that he was bad. Tahu looks bad, and then that's when he's like,
he
oh,
looks
he does
bad.
look an antagonist.
Like his intentions are bad. Like he wants to rob a liquor store or something.
A milk store. Then
Bionicle liquor.
A milk store.
Bionicle liquor.
A milk store?
Licorice
A
is
milk
what
store.
you're referring to, right?
There's
No,
no such
I'm
thing as
referring,
milk
I'm referring
stores.
to the Coke Corona. No,
It's oil.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, yeah. So that's essentially the two styles presented to you. That's what we have to work
Right.
with at the moment. We've got the two pitches there. It's 3D versus 2D at this point. My pitch is my own. I mean, like I don't I don't assume that everybody here is completely in favor with them or not.
I'm mostly in favor. I think it looks great. Because like the thing that I really come to, the fork in the road when we're talking about like 3D versus 2D, I understand like you can talk comedy and tone and serious moments and whatever, but really on a pure subjective level, it comes down to fight sequences and action scenes, and like there's a track record of the fight scenes not being very good in shows like Ninjago or Chima or NEXO Knights. Not to say there haven't been many awesome fight scenes. Nia versus Klaus, the Hands of Time versus the Ninja, etc. But it's typically very hard to make a really intensely choreographed action scene in a minifigure style. Even in the Lego movie, it's very hard. There were only 2. And they were used very sparingly.
I thought that was a scripting error as opposed to a actual conceptual what they could have done thing.
I mean, there were a lot of fight scenes in that movie.
Yeah, it's like I think there's more potential in the 2D style, but that's just me.
For me, it's like a thing of
okay, go.
It's like a thing of I can look at animated TV shows in a similar style, 2D animation, and see that it very clearly works. There are very clear examples, like Avatar, like Voltron, like Elves, where like you can do sort of more action-oriented scenes that work very, very well and convey exactly what they're doing, and they're intense and they're fun to watch. I haven't really seen that out of 3D animated, at least not in the Lego. Not in the Lego style. Ruby is pretty much a 2D animated anime. Obviously it is 3D animation.
Animated anime.
It is, it is 3D animation, but it's meant to kind of evoke the same visual look as a 2D animation.
No, I think. Well, here's the difference. What I'm getting at is that I think when you talk about the 2D animation that can do the fight scenes, I think you're on the right track about shows that are made overseas. Right, and if you look at like Avatar was made with Studio Mir and Korra as well, those have amazing fight scenes. But I don't know if we're going with the Western style and we're going to do stuff that's related. We're probably going to have a Western studio working on this Western style. Ultimately, are those shows going to have the same?
Well, the style is not tied to where the studio is based.
No, I know. I'm just saying that
Western cartoons
style
are made overseas too.
Right, but like essentially the software that they have and everything that goes into that house style that doesn't. The style that we're going with, because we're not just talking about 2D animation, we're talking about a specific style of animation. Does those examples have the same amount of level of fight scenes of really good?
I mean, yeah, I think you can look at Ben 10 and find some decent fight scenes. Yes, I think you can look at Samurai Jack and find some very good fight scenes.
Heck yeah!
Samurai Jack does have some really
I think there are some very clear examples of Western cartoons that do fight scenes very well.
And then the last thing is this show going to primarily, because the subconscious thing that's going to happen here is if we go with the 2D animated style, we are not going for minifigure style. Or if we did the 3D, it wouldn't be a 3D animated thing like Journey to the One. It would be
if we did 3D, it would be a minifigure.
It would be minifigures. So what are we looking to have our show revolve around and rotate? Because we are going to have contraction figures as well. Are we going to be able to incorporate any of the system elements, because our line is primarily going to be a system line, into that? And Elves, they kind of do, but they kind of don't. It's really weird. There's Lego parts in the trees sometimes, and different things like that. I found it cool, but at the same time, we are now not doing construction theme anymore. So we have to think, do we want our main characters to look just like everyone in the show, basically, to look like construction when we're not doing construction theme?
I feel like I get what you're trying to say. I don't really think it was an issue. Like, Elves did it well. I want to do it like Elves.
I mean, Elves doesn't have construction at all, and we are still planning on having construction in our hypothetical here. So it's like, if Elves can get away with doing it, then I'm not sure it really matters that much. And plus, I don't know, I felt like being able to see those sets represented in an actual 2D style that isn't Lego bricks was actually pretty cool for me personally. I think the part that failed Elves was the minifigures, because the Lego dolls just aren't that appealing in terms of an actual toy.
That's true.
Product.
That's true.
But I feel like the sets themselves were pretty cool. Like seeing the dragons in the show represented as actual dragons. I think that definitely made me want to go buy the Lego dragons. So I don't know. I feel like it did a decent job at that.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Those are just points I wanted to raise up. So
Cool. Well,
But yeah,
I guess
that's
yeah.
pretty much where we stand. I guess
Right.
we'll have to wait and look at some audience feedback and see how people are feeling in terms of what we presented. If there's anything in particular that they're feeling that we could do differently in terms of either pitches, either styles there.
I think
kinda
it's
come
good
back
that
to
we
it.
started the conversation. I think what's going to really get down to is doing some slight animation tests and seeing how that looks like in the finished thing. That would be the thing that's swaying me. Right now, I am leaning towards the 3D minifigures, just because in my head, what I conceptualize out of that is going to work better than what I conceptualize out of the 2D things. But actually seeing it would sway. Like, I wasn't completely sold on the style until you did your drawings, Var. And then once I got that and I saw the backgrounds, I was like, okay, I get this more now than I did previously. Just when I'm thinking stuff in my head and when I'm visualizing how things are going to look, it's way easier for me to look at the 3D style and think of how that's going to work and feel better. So that's where I stand right now.
The age-old challenge of needing something conceptual.
Yeah.
I stand at the exact opposite. I can't. It's really difficult for me to see anything other than the Ninjago TV show.
Yeah.
Right. This is why I think we do some tests.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, get ready to have the discussion paused for a long time because animating
this
takes
discussion
time.
was always. I think we'll go back to the script for a good bit because we do need to figure out. Animation is going to take a bit longer to figure out. I don't know if we're going to be like. Because right now we're presenting this to the audience. We're going to look at feedback. We're going to look at all the different things. Some people might have different ideas. Some people might have evolutions of this style that we've put forward, or different things. So it doesn't need to kind of end here. That makes sense.
Yeah. Before we end though, Vin, Meso, do you guys have any opinions into this? I'm not sure.
I'm leaning
about your
into
stance on
into 2D. I'll be honest. I'm leaning into your art style. Literally, the only thing I didn't like was the feet. Other than that, it's like I can see the backgrounds being very bright and expressive. I can see they're very minifigure accurate, unlike the elves characters who kind of were, but also weren't because of the mini dolls. Like, I can look at these and they might not be minifigures, but they're very easily recognizable as the minifigures. If I saw that in the show and I went to the store, I'd be able to make that one-to-one comparison. That being said, I do have concerns over how the animation would actually look. But I am in the camp of I don't want a Bionicle show that looks like the Ninjago TV show.
Same.
If that can be avoided, awesome. And I do really like Zeros' models. Like, they're really, really good looking. I also am having trouble visualizing what a show would look like in that style, with backgrounds and scenery and environment.
It's so crazy.
That.
That's weird to me. I actually can't visualize the 2D style. I don't know how it would work for fight scenes and stuff. I can easily visualize the 3D thing in my head.
I'm just thinking better 2015 animations is basically all I'm thinking of. It's like
I can see LEGO minifigures going at it in some crazy Ruby style fight, but I can't take that seriously. That's my problem. It's I can see that happening, but if I were to see that, would that actually be cool to me? No.
Well, it'd be as cool as anything animated to me.
Way better with the 2D animation.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just when I'm thinking of a lot,
time and time again, we've seen shows with similar art styles take on really good action sequences. Teen Titans, Spectacular Spider-Man were very stylized, and they had great action scenes. I think this wouldn't be an exception.
Right,
that
but
being
we
said,
also talked beforehand about people couldn't take Spectacular Spider-Man seriously, even though it had this great action, even though it had all this stuff going for it. So,
but this isn't a Spectacular Spider-Man. This isn't one-to-one Spectacular Spider-Man. It's similar.
No, I know. What I'm saying is that we're talking about if people you're saying that you wouldn't be able to take this seriously, and I think that opinion is very valid. But other people have the opposite opinion, that they wouldn't be able to take the 2D seriously, and we saw that and we discussed about that early on. So what we're talking about right now is not made in it's that opinion can apply to both styles basically.
Yeah, it can, but the reason that was brought up is because of the age assumptions that come with certain styles.
Yeah, exactly.
Not so much that it would be ridiculous if an animated character was fighting. It's because when you see a particular style, you assume that this show
looks
is
like
for
it's
little
5-year-olds,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, or this show is for adults. You look at
Saboteur.
Thundercats and you think it's for adults. You look at the new Ben 10 reboot, you think it's for little kids. It's a different level of being able to take it seriously than what I'm referring to when I'm talking about Lego minifigures going at it and doing crazy little like twist and stuff. For me, I look at that and I just think that this looks really silly.
Yeah.
These are little like
I'd rather see
toys.
the 2D animations than these Bionicle minifigures. Kick
I don't know,
back,
man.
whipping around and spinning and stuff.
I'm willing
In
to,
my head,
to
I'm
see
looking
the
at the
concept
style, and I
through
feel like
because I really like the models. I just don't like... Even the Lego movies, even with all their fancy budget, they look cool, but I don't know how that would translate into a show. And I also don't know how that
I
would
didn't take the
translate
fight
into
scenes in that
Bionicle.
movie seriously.
No,
it's like,
both they were all played for comedic effect, even the ones that were well choreographed.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. Ninjago
stop
is
motion heavy.
the Lego movies are comedic in tone, so the all the fight scenes they have some element of comedy to them that I don't know would
Because
like I agree. While you don't want to emulate it, but I also don't know that's the only thing it can do with that style. Did we see stop motion before with some very good stuff as well? And stop motion, essentially, I mean, the Lego movies are essentially.
I mean, you know
just
my
very
opinion
highlighted
on stop motion.
I don't know your opinion. What is it?
I hate stop motion.
All of it, really?
I've never
Yeah.
seen a Lego minifigure fight scene
Fight
I
that
can
was
take
convincing?
seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't either.
And I think that's
So,
why
I
the
don't
Lego
know.
movies don't bother doing that. I think that's why they make it silly, because they know
think
it's
they're
not going to be
comedies.
anything but silly.
I don't think anything but
Boy.
silly is a fair assessment of that style.
Oh, dude, Princess
Princess,
reminded
yeah.
me. Oh, yeah, dude, I forgot all about
General
General
Grievous.
Grievous.
General
This is
Grievous.
one of the great.
This one's a good
This
one.
is another.
Oh,
this is
man.
actually. Oh man, this is a very subconscious style right here. I think that was an influence on me. I think,
that's true. I forgot all about
Clone
Clone
Wars.
Wars. Clone Wars is a good one.
Clone Wars is very similar to the style that I used for this. I think. now that I
Grievous
think
was so
about
much more intimidating here.
it. He really was. Yeah, I know. God, yeah, Clone Wars is pretty much the exact. You know what? Now that I think about it, this style probably developed out of me doing like, little fun like fan drawings as a kid of Clone Wars.
I'm looking at Clone Wars. Clone Wars is possibly the closest example to your style.
to my style,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking so too.
Yeah.
Basically, my thoughts. I don't want to drop Zero's
You know what?
concept.
This
but-
is now that I'm watching this closely, this is using rig animations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of a combination of both of them. It doesn't look like it's frame by frame. Maybe I'm wrong though.
No, I think you're right. You're right.
This is
It looks like a
how
combination
interesting.
for sure.
Yeah, I think it might be.
I haven't watched this in so long. I should watch this a
You
bit
should
more.
watch this. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is definitely the closest example to what my style looks like. So I think that's it'd probably be a good case study to look at. Regardless, we're going to come back to this next week. We're already running a little long here, so it's good to hear your guys' opinions on that. If you guys have any opinions on it, those listening to this, then be sure to leave it in the comments down below. And you can always head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/TTV channel, donate any price that you desire, and you can join our live studio audience.
And also read
you
the story Bible. Someone can get you a link to that.
Yeah, you could have been the one to remind us of Clone Wars. Had you been here in this live studio audience, so
Nice.
it's always a really useful tool for us.
I bet you in the comments someone's gonna be like, Clone Wars, why aren't you guys talking about Clone Wars? And then
Wasn't
like edit.
Clone Wars
oh,
animated by the
listen
same
to the end of
people
the
that did
episode.
Samurai Jack?
I believe so. Yes.
Eh,
Well, like-
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's gonna wrap up this episode, everybody. I'm Var,
I'm Meso.
I'm John.
I'm Ven.
and this has been Brainstorm episode 8. We will see you guys next week, hopefully for some for some episode 2 talk, and maybe to address some feedback. Goodbye, maybe. Goodbye, everybody.